Hey, it's Kendrick with Technology Interpreters. And so today I have with me Dr. Natalie Foster Johnson. So today we want to talk a little bit about something that's very passionate to her, but a lot of you are just now getting into cybersecurity, or you may be aspiring to get into cybersecurity. And so you tend to think about a lot of times the boot camps and certifications and stuff like that. But what I want to do is I want to help to shift your focus to kind of what's really important by bringing in people who are in the cybersecurity field, who are doing things that are really, really important to protect large organizations. And so today, I want to talk to Dr. Foster, who is a critical infrastructure advocate, VCSO, trainer, researcher, cyber resiliency consultant, community volunteer, mother, Girl Scout, sister, daughter, auntie, T1D advocate, and friend. So that's a lot of stuff. You're a busy lady. So Dr. Johnson, thanks for coming on the channel. And so let's talk about critical infrastructure and the things that are important to you, and anything that you want to share about yourself too. What got you into this? Yeah.
Okay. I'm Dr. Johnson. Thanks for having me, Kendrick. I'm on YouTube. I think this is hilarious. I'm gaming up. I love what you're doing for the cyber community. Call on me anytime. I could talk for hours about critical infrastructure, but let's talk about what I think your audience wants to hear about. And honestly, it's about getting jobs. It's about getting engaged. People typically, when they come into cybersecurity, they don't look at critical infrastructure as an option, and it's total mistake. Critical infrastructure is where it is. The organization is called CISA. There are 16 critical infrastructure sectors. On LinkedIn, I am affectionately referred to as Dr. Resiliency. I've come up like a comic style approach to teaching about the critical infrastructure sectors because they're so unknown about. Typically, we don't think about critical infrastructure until it goes out. That's your cell phone, that's your water, that's your aviation and transportation bodies. That's like this week's feature was emergency services. Those are all those first responders, one time for our first responders that run towards issues. Dr. Johnson enjoys computers because when I don't like something, I reboot. So everyone knows me. I love firefighters, nothing against police officers, but there's such a full world and opportunity for cyber students and cyber advocates and career changers to look into critical infrastructure. Like I said, the organization is CISA, and for the life of me, the acronym is not coming to me, but you can literally
Security Agency, I think.
Anyway, you can literally Google CISA 16 sectors, and you will get pages and pages of what those sectors mean to us as a country and what opportunities a newcomer in cyber could do it. I also will be having a book launch for my birthday in August on a book that I'm writing about critical infrastructure. It's called Critical Infrastructure 101, A Leader's Pocket Guide. That was a shameless little tidbit there. It'll be out on Amazon Direct Publishing, and I'll be sure to get you a copy. What can we talk about? All of the jobs. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I was going to break down a little bit kind of the critical infrastructure, but you were about to say all the jobs. So go ahead.
What's weird is all of the jobs that are in a traditional for-profit are in critical infrastructure. So you have your network team, you have your applications team, you have your server desktop team. In addition, we have something what they call operational technology. It's referred to as OT, and that's what they refer to as SCADA and more older systems. Like at the airport, it's represented by baggage handling systems, HVAC. All of these systems are very different from IT. So you'll hear IT and you'll hear OT now. Did you want to chime in on somewhere and go through some of the sectors?
No, I think so. I think we cooking right here. Let's get into this. I like where this is going. So IT and OT, because the thing is, you have a lot of people that are focused on IT, and the percentage of people who are in cybersecurity professions who have experience with or who are have an intimate or high level understanding of OT is probably very small. The only reason that I'm familiar with OT is I used to work for a mining company. So we had rock crushers and conveyor belts and hot asphalt dumping machines and stuff like that. And if OT goes wrong, bad things can happen, like literally very bad things. People might not go home that night if OT goes wrong. So I know the importance of it. And one of the biggest thing, and I'll throw this out here, one of my biggest thing is with OT, it's always production oriented, production focused. It has to always be up, right? So that
Yep.
being the case, stopping to do security updates, stopping to do any kind of like
Patching.
infrastructure equipment upgrades, that gets pushed by. So OT environments are some of the most vulnerable environments when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's my impression of OT. So what are your thoughts there from your perspective? Because you got a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of the legacy systems.
Yeah.
And again, I started my career in IT. You think Windows, you think Linux, you think Mac. OT doesn't live on any of that. It's you're exactly right. There is no downtime. Patching on a traditional IT environment, you have 30-day patch cycles. I know some IT systems that are patched literally, pardon me, OT systems that are patched yearly. And it's in these big environments. You can think Colonial Pipeline, you can think power systems, you can think SCADA. That whole OT landscape is a whole set of job opportunities for new cyber professionals. So I mean, don't sleep on that. Local organizations are just now being thrusted into managing OT. Unfortunately, because the bad guys are now pointing towards OT, and they're so critical to everyday life.
Yeah. So I got a quick sidebar. So it's funny that you mentioned Colonial Pipeline because I used to live pretty much on the pipeline. It cut through our city back in Alabama. And so a couple of stories about Colonial, total sidebar is that for one, they got hacked, remember? And so
Yeah.
one of the biggest hack I never forget, Saturday morning. And so I was part of InfraGard. I was InfraGard president, but at the time I was the immediate past president. And so that morning, it was Saturday morning. I forget, the InfraGard coordinator called me and I was kind of like sleep. So I missed the call. Then I called him back later. But he, of course, he never said what he was calling, but he was calling to ask for say, hey, do you know anybody at Colonial Pipeline? Do you have any contacts at Colonial Pipeline? And the reason he was calling is because he was calling to notify them that they had been hacked, So I had no clue what it is. So if you think that a lot of times by being in the private sector that you don't have any value when it comes to law enforcement or big things like that, I never knew that first call, I would be one of the first people that would kind of get a call, look for information, trying to get in touch with them for one of the biggest hacks in history. The second thing is, you talk about when things go wrong, Colonial Pipeline, there was actually explosion on the pipeline. And I never forget, I was coming home from work and my ex-wife at the time, she was on her way back from the university. And we looked up and there was this mushroom cloud in the sky from the pipeline.
That's scary.
And my daughter is like, yeah, my daughter's school, it ran through our city of Helena, Alabama. And so I never forget that day when I'm looking and seeing this mushroom cloud in the sky as I'm trying to rush home to see what's going on because my daughter's school is on lockdown and stuff like that because of a huge explosion, which was like 2 miles or something like that from the school. It wasn't very far. And so when it comes to pipelines and also other pipelines, we had 2 pipelines that ran through our city. Like, lucky me, don't ever move to a side of the city that has gas and petroleum pipelines running through it. Very bad thing. Another time that equipment they had malfunction and it started dumping fuel, like, I don't know how many millions of gallons of fuel just got dumped into that city when it comes to. So that's my exposure when it comes to pipelines. But the bottom line is, back to it, yes, that was one of the biggest hacks. And so they have OT systems and stuff like that. I'm sure in order to be able to know things go wrong with it, I guess that's part of it. But also to control the valves and stuff like that related to the pipeline. I'm sure somebody's not going out there manually turning things to turn it off. Those are all part of OT systems. So anyway, that's my sidebar. Yeah.
But even to speak further, the OT systems are legacy systems that they're old school and they're going through an evolution process. So a lot of these systems that weren't built for, cloud, they weren't built with authentication, patching wasn't a thing when it was creating, are now being thrusted into environments that the threat environment is huge. It's, it wasn't built to do this. You got to think oil and gas. That's a big one. Powers and utilities, chemical, critical manufacturing. And these are such important avenues in our environment that we don't think about until they break. Like the Colonial Pipeline, they ended up paying the ransom, which was crazy. They had to do what they had to do. I get it. They wanted their systems back. But every American, every person, everyone here needs to understand that place of IT, OT, critical infrastructure, have their individual plans in place. For cyber professionals, it gives us an opportunity to look at things differently. My organization has been looking at OT differently probably since, let's see, 2021. The mandate started to come down, and we're starting to see more issues in the wild with critical infrastructure, and it's a crazy one. But in that,
Yeah.
I like to stay on the positive where it's opportunity. People are trying to get into cyber. They refer to it as cyber physical now, where it's
Okay.
not just your technology systems, it is the physical aspect to it. Again, those dials and connecting those dials and
Yeah.
systems, it's a big deal.
You got me thinking, because like, for instance, when it comes to a lot of this, and my focus, like I'm trying to teach these guys, like in the mentorship program that we do, I'm teaching them like on the tenable, the vulnerability. I'm teaching like actual on the job things, right? But
Mhm.
when it comes to the cybersecurity field as a whole, you think about it, boot camps, college courses. I don't think anybody's teaching OT. In fact, well, not anybody. There's probably somebody, but there's not enough people teaching OT. Like, it should literally be a part of every curriculum out there. And in addition to that, we talk about things like the OSI model and stuff like that, different protocols and stuff like that. But OT has a whole different set of protocols
Do.
that
Yeah.
nothing like the stuff that we know, right? And I'm just thinking,
Yep.
like, kind of as we are going through something, like why is nobody teaching? Like, why have I never seen like a graph saying, hey, here are the top 10 like OT protocols that every cybersecurity professional should know, or something like that. In fact, I know to myself, I need to go create
No, it's there. There's
Yeah.
definitely a job path. I haven't
Yeah.
seen any local organizations school wise, but I'm working with a couple partners in South Florida to get that on the forefront where it is a separate other job market. And yes, they're
Yeah.
similar skills, but they're definitely. I know you can go in and be an OT professional and make a whole career out of it and do something
Smart.
very uniquely different from IoT, from IT. Um, Different systems. I know CISA and INL, the Idaho National Labs, they for government workers, they have specific OT courses. And I would behoove a young person, if you want to do something different and you haven't quite found your fit in IT, maybe your home is OT. A quick Google, and reach
Mhm.
out on LinkedIn. I know I can direct you to some courses, and let's figure
Yeah.
out how to get people into that very critical
Yeah.
pipeline so I can retire. I
I
giggle.
say,
I want to
well,
make
I
sure
mean,
everyone's doing their thing, so when I retire, I can feel good and not worry.
we'll see. Man, you got my wheels turning. Like, this whole OT thing. Like, for instance, if somebody, I'm trying to think, if you're basically saying you're listening to this podcast, whatever, people say podcast, I'll just call it YouTube recording. But if you're listening to this and you say, hey, I want to start learning OT, like, a lot of times, we tell people to set up virtual labs and stuff like that for a lot of stuff we do in cyber. The thing is, I don't think I would know what device, like if I wanted to build my own home lab or something like that to start playing with OT or to get to familiar or protocols. I don't know if I would know exactly where to start. Maybe with my security system, or like an old security system or something like that. But any ideas how they could actually like start to get hands-on experience? Because everything in cyber these days, they want you to have actual experience, right? So any ways you can think of that they could get experience with OT?
I know SANS gives some classes. I shout out to SANS. I love what they do. They have a lot of training programs, and the one I'm thinking about, there is an OT route in there for SCADA. SANS
Okay.
gives offerings for free trainings. There's cyber academies. That is a distinct way, but I have to take that one as an action item. Maybe that's something we can work on together, where we can,
Yeah.
build out a curriculum and how
Mhm.
to create pathways. I also look at the NICE framework. They
Okay.
have and are always expanding on career opportunities in cyber, IT, and OT. That's something we'll have to look at together, because, like I said, I work in critical infrastructure. I started in IT and it kind of morphed into OT, but that was specifically because I work in the aviation system and we have historians, we have PLC, we have SCADA environments. That's not really something someone off the street would be able to have access to. So
Okay.
definitely we can think about.
So there we go. So you heard it here. So the goal is for us to bring old home labs to the masses, right? So if you're listening, if there's a sponsor or somebody that wants to do that, you know what I'm saying? If you know how to do it, like, hit us up, right? So we love to. Okay, cool. So now that we're talking a little bit about OT and exposure, when it comes to first of all, I think that, if you look the way cyber is, I think that that probably would be a pretty secure area to go into because,
Not going away.
well, yeah, exactly. Right. So from my experience, typically the people I deal with they are typically the engineers or the consultants who come in to set up and maintain equipment and stuff like that. And honestly, those guys most time are not very security focused. They're very focused on the equipment and making sure the equipment works, and they do their updates periodically and stuff like that. And I respect them for what they do, but the hardest part is to try to bridge the gap between getting the cyber implemented in OT. And I don't know, I don't feel like everything should always be an either or. Like in my
No,
past
it's an
company, it was
and.
always, yeah,
And.
it was always a contentious relationship with them because they were very specific and they just did not have value for cyber. And I feel like in cyber field, a lot of times we're always reaching out to different groups and stakeholders and stuff like that, trying to say, hey, this is important. Please listen to us. And I would very much like to change that because it frustrates me sitting there like you're saying, I'm trying to protect the organization, but I've got to beg a particular group to value this. And from your perspective, how do you fix that to kind of make sure that the OT people or new OT people come in, maybe they could be more cybersecurity focused and understanding the implications of not just operational loss, but also cyber, and which can lead to operational and financial loss?
But that's a bigger picture that goes beyond OT, IT, apps, network, server, desktop. That speaks to
Yeah.
organizational culture. And I say all the
Yeah.
time to young people, they're like, oh, I'm having a hard time at this place, and I don't believe I belong here. I want to say we as professionals have to understand our value. And if you are
Okay.
somewhere and you are not getting that support, or you're not loved, you're not getting that energy, you may be in the wrong place. Not all
Okay.
organizations have a forward thinking perspective when it comes to IT, OT, patching, vulnerability management. Unfortunately, it takes the right of the boom. I use the term left of the boom. That's your pre-planning. That's the stuff you should be doing, tabletop exercises, monitoring, blah, blah, blah. And then you have your right of the boom. And it's
Mhm.
sad, but most organizations don't get real about cyber in any form until something happens or it
Okay.
gets uncomfortably close.
Mm.
We've had quite a few incidents in the aviation space, and it's a wake up call. It's the bad guys are knocking. They're using AI and tools, the same tools that we're using, they're using and using more proficiently. So I mean, it's an organizational culture thing. It speaks to thought leadership. It speaks to servant leadership. You hear me say tone from the top. Um, a successful cyber aware or cyber resilient culture speaks to the people who are in charge. And it's bad. You hear it every day. Major partners, major players having issues, having their own resume generating event because they're not taking
Mhm.
cyber you know at face value or understanding everyone has a role in cyber. And that's part of what we push at the CyberMinds Institute. That's part of why I'm involved with Cyversity, where it's a new world. And I think the younger generations, I'm gonna date myself. Like I had to learn technology, and there's a certain level of almost fear there. And I take a more cautious approach. There are some people who embrace technology a little faster than I would want. And I'm not saying don't embrace. I'm saying do it in a thoughtful way. I know we
Gotcha.
could go on the AI and talk for hours. Where I'm not saying AI is bad. AI is an amazing tool, just like cyber and technology and word processing, and hell, the industrial revolution was a new thing. But
Mhm.
organizations have to come in with their eyes open and understand, with great power comes great responsibility, and that includes, being cyber aware. You're hearing the term information security and cybersecurity begin to fall by the wayside because it's about cyber resilience now. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when.
It's
And the
when.
goal
Yeah.
for all organizations is to be able to come back from it, whether you're a pipeline, whether you're an airport, whether you get hit on your personal phone. Do you have that backup in the cloud? Do you have,
Mm.
parameters for MFA set so they don't get you with MFA fatigue? It's a whole approach, globally on changing our thought as consumers, as professionals, as businesses, to understand that technology is a double-edged sword.
Gotcha. I want to circle back to something just to make sure for somebody who's never heard these terms. A lot of times, you say left of the boom and right of the boom, and so my
Yeah,
understanding of that is basically like this is a cyber incident or something that bad that happens, right? An incident, and so
mhm,
incident typically, by my definition and like how SANS define it for me, is something that causes harm, right? So for example, if you have a accident, you hit somebody with a car, that's an incident. But somebody cuts in front of you, but you don't hit them, that's an event. So that's the
right.
kind of way I've always kind of explained it. But left of the boom means what you do before the bad thing
Your
happens.
pre-boom.
Say
Right.
you're checking your tires, you make sure your headlights, tail lights are run, you make sure you're alert. Yeah. And then right of the boom is after the accident happens. You hit somebody, they hit you. You've got insurance. You
Mhm.
call you make sure you call 911, all those type of things. So is that kind of accurate from your perspective, Dr. Foster? I mean, Dr.
Yeah,
Johnson.
now I'll give you the example that I did with my organization. We had a tabletop exercise that was not technical at all. We did a left of the boom. And what we did was
Okay.
we got our law enforcement, we got our FBI, we got our CISA contact, we got our critical system contacts, where I don't want the first time as an IT professional that I'm dusting off this incident response plan, or unfortunately I'm calling the FBI or the IC3. You have to know what you're going to do, because human beings are creatures of practice. So for people that are coming into the industry, you got to practice what you preach. You got to understand, if in state of Florida, if a cyber incident that happens and it's a 3, 4, or 5 in a criticality, I have these 15 things I have to do. And that's a part of my left of the boom. I know
Okay.
I need to call my law enforcement. I know I need to, contact the FAA. That is left of the boom, and understanding what you need to do, because you're going to have all this adrenaline. You're going to have, the press calling depending on the situation. So you need to be aware, that includes from your senior management team down, on what we need to do. Um, we've gone as far as having conversations, like MITRE is the perfect example on how to handle an incident. They were transparent, they were clean, they gave updates, and it was an eye opener, and continues to be an eye opener, that these phenomenal organizations are getting hit, whether it's because of supply chain partner, whether because some legacy system that was open to the internet. They did an amazing job, and they recovered. And that's what cyber resilience is. That's why I'm Dr. Resiliency. That's why we need to get everyone on the same level set about cyber is an amazing opportunity, is an amazing career field, but there's lots we have to do to be prepared, both left of the boom and right of.
In your opinion, I mean, I see every day that we're losing the battle in cyber,
Yeah.
right? We're losing the battle internally with our organizations because once again, we have budget constraints, and that includes equipment, that includes personnel. We have, I would say, culture constraints. There's always something more important than cyber, and even you go to advocate. And then we have time constraints because most of us being typically understaffed, we work on a bunch of other things that are not necessarily, we're not always in our SIMs and in our cybersecurity tools looking for people who are attacking us. We're relying on kind of built-in automation that we may go in and check, occasionally,
Occasionally.
may
Yeah.
add some additional occasionally, if at all, right? Whereas threat actors tend to be highly skilled and very focused and very dedicated to their one mission, which is to either compromise an organization, to be able to extract data, information, PII, whatever, intellectual property, and also to be able to do ransomware and to be able to ultimately gain money, financial gain. Considering how things are, and with bad actors especially being able to accelerate what they're doing because they're able to use AI platforms that are
Oh, yeah.
unshackled, right?
Yeah.
Their AI tells them everything, how to make
Yeah.
bombs and how to make malware, right?
Yeah.
So if you look, yeah. So the thing is, and all of our AI is on guardrail, has guardrails on it, which stop us from being able to have access to the things we need and the power we need to be able to combat it. How do we fix
Sometimes
it? Yeah.
I affectionately, my parents, they raised me real humble, and I try to keep a positive outlook. Is there going to be bad things? Unfortunately, there are going to be bad things. There are going to be bad people. I think it has to do with your spiritual and your mental place. If cyber was easy, then everyone would do it. But we will persevere as a country, as the good guys. There's a lot on the landscape coming. AI continues to grow, quantum computing. I see all of those mechanisms as challenges. Like I make the comparison. We used to have horse-drawn carriages, and people saw the car and the Fords and the Chevrolets, and it transitioned and it was okay. Everything's gonna be okay. Culturally, in organizations, we're gonna, just like there's different people, there's good people and bad people. There's gonna be companies that do what they're supposed to do, and companies that don't do what they're supposed to do. As consumers, you got to make informed decisions. Our phones, that our whole entire worlds sit in our hands. That's what we have to educate ourselves as consumers about privacy, about our day-to-day habits, MFA, backup. These are all things that we can do as consumers that can protect our information and protect us. Identity theft is real. As a company, you just gotta, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. The issues that we're gonna have going forward with AI, the continued issues we have with cybersecurity concerns, it's a big old elephant. Like,
Yeah.
just gotta keep a positive mindset. Organizations have to keep doing the traditional cybersecurity stuff. You go, oh, AI, AI, AI. AI is nothing different than the last, 10 years ago, cloud was a curse word.
Yeah.
Now, federal organizations and everything else is in the cloud. It's a
Yeah.
part of everyday life. I giggle when people say AI is new. No, AI isn't new. AI has been a part of cybersecurity tools probably for the last 10 to 15 years. It's not new. It is more readily available to consumers. Yes. Is it providing value adds in good ways and bad ways? Yeah. But again, we'll learn how to manage this technology just like we have all the other ones. Are we going to lose some jobs? Yes. Are we going to lose some legacy concepts? Yes. But we're gaining so much. So we just, I try to stay away from politics and the political landscape and the negative. You just got to keep your mind in a good place. I have my faith. I wear my blessed, and my kids go, my mom's favorite word is blessed. Yes, my house is full of the word blessed, because we got to go with it. And things are going to happen, and this too shall pass. And we'll handle it like we've handled everything else.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And on that note, I think that's gems. Anything else you want to share? How can they find the CyberMinds Institute, Research Institute, training, and anything? Like, if you got links you want to share, I'll put those in the video too. So, but anything in closing you want to share with the people watching this video?
Find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm Dr. Resiliency. I love my students. People laugh. Oh, I don't consider myself a mentor. Like, every person I've interacted with, they give to me, I give to them. Hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on Instagram. I do work with the local Cyversity chapter in South Florida. I'm a lifetime Girl Scout. Like I affectionately say, I'm in my give back era. You're a resource. You stuck with me. I haven't fed you yet, so you're not family until I feed you. But let's do this together. Let's reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and let's be a community.
Okay. And on that note, if you watched it at the end of if you're here at the end of the video, I always give a hashtag because I like to see the people who actually watched the entire video. I think we're going to do hashtag critical infrastructure resilience, right? So
Love it.
for that's a long hashtag, but I know if you watched it and that you're dedicated. So thank you all for who did make it to the end of the video. And also, if you are here and you're trying to get into cybersecurity, I do have the cybersecurity mentorship program that we do through Technology Interpreters. We got gyms, we got an actual environment. We got about 1.5 thousand vulnerabilities that our students are going through remediating right now. And they're doing it all in command line, the terminals, not clicking with mouse and keyboard. So doing that, making sure we're adding a compliance module. In addition to that, we're teaching the basic core Windows skill, networking, about 8 hours of networking training. And every module of the training, which there are probably about 5 or 6 modules at this point, you have to test out and you have to prove that you know it before we allow you to move on to the next module. So if that's something you're interested in, then I'll have a link to the cybersecurity mentorship program in the description of the video. So thanks for watching. Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for coming on. And hopefully this will not be the last time. We're going to have some interesting topics that we want to chop it up with in the future. So thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.